So this will be your second and last video um, for March 17th. So the next natural scientist we're looking at is Albert Einstein, who you, I'm sure, are familiar with. Newton regarded scientists as observers, and Einstein believed scientists must be central to their own scientific realities. So Einstein believed that scientists must be central to their own scientific realities. His theories were less objective than strict Newtonian mechanics. So his theories were less objective than strict Newtonian mechanics. His theory of relativity... Sorry. His theory of relativity, which you want to know about him, his theory of relativity relies on the relationship between humans and their environment, time, and space. So his theory of relativity relies on the relationship between humans and their environment, time, and space. So basically, for relativity, that everything's relative based on what's going on with the time and space that you're occupying. This includes, like, on Earth, out in the universe, that time moves differently if you were to travel through the universe, through black holes, whatever the case is. But also even here, like, time just works a lot different whenever you're relative to what you're working on or doing at the time. So Albert Einstein, usually considered was the most influential physicist in the 20th century. Of course, a lot of his works would help lead towards the atomic bomb. Now, he himself does not create the atomic bomb, but a lot of his theories and a lot of his early work would help lay the foundation for the atomic bomb. All right, so a couple other natural scientists to be aware of. You have Max Planck. He's a German who developed quantum theory. So Max Planck developed he was a German who developed quantum theory, which revolutionized the understanding of atomic and subatomic processes. So he revolutionized the understanding of atomic and subatomic processes. This changed how people understood space and time and contributed to the study of thermodynamics. So this changed how people understood time and space and contributed to the study of thermodynamics. All right, and lastly, you have Marie Curie, who is Polish and French, a scientist who developed a way to isolate pure radium as well as the element polonium. So she developed a way to isolate pure radium as well as the element polonium. So she helps develop a lot of research with a lot of earlier nuclear studies. She became the first woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize and developed the theory. She developed the theory of radioactivity. So she does a lot of early work with, like, X-rays and those kind of things, and does a lot of work into radioactivity and how these things work. She wasn't that kind to a lot of her workers, because she knowingly exposed a lot of her workers to, like, radioactivity without them knowing about it, to basically study the effects of it on them. All right, the last thing we're going to be covering is art. So this is something you really want to have the PowerPoint pulled up for. We have to talk about modern artists. So I have several slides here to show you some of their examples. But we're going to kind of talk about the modern art movement and then go through its different movements and then show you some examples of all these guys. Okay, so modern artists. Realist artists sought to depict their subjects accurately, but in a world with photography and painters, painters no longer felt the need to portray their world exactly as it appeared in contrast. So realism was very dominant from like 1840s to 1890s, but now with things like photography, people want to portray their world not as accurate as they once did, because you can just do that with a photograph now. So this shift led to modern art. Modern art will become developed in the late 1800s and going into the early 1900s. It was a style. Modern art's a style that was more subjective, abstract, and expressive than most Euros throughout history had done. So it was a style that was more subjective, abstract, and expressive than most Europeans throughout history. Okay. So here are your different examples of modern art. We're going to go through each one fairly quickly. First is Impressionism. It emphasized light and color as the true subjects of the work. So Impressionism emphasized light and color as the true subjects of their work. It reflected the influence of African and Japanese traditions. So Impressionism reflected the influence of African and Japanese traditions. Then you have Post-Impressionism. Post-Impressionism focused more on order than light and color. It focused more on order than light and color. I'm going to show you some examples here in a second. So it focused more on order than light and color. 3. Expressionism. 3 is Expressionism. It focused on portraying the internal feelings of the artist rather than showing the subject accurately. It focused on portraying the internal feelings of the artist rather than showing the subject accurately. The content often looks somewhat realistic, but modified in order to focus on a mood. 4. Fauvism. Emphasize vibrant color rather than realistic colors. It emphasized vibrant color rather than realistic colors. And then finally you have Cubism. It abandoned the need for the subject matter altogether in an attempt to depict 3D subjects on 2D planes. So Cubism abandoned the need for subject matter altogether in an attempt to depict 3D subjects on 2D plane. All right, then you have shift in art. Late 1800s, early 1900s was a time of experiment and controversy. Traditional portraits and landscapes gave way to depictions of the activities of common people. Then artists began to downplay the importance of content altogether, emphasizing light or color or emotion. Art became more non-representational. So here are your examples and here are your artists. So this first slide are 2 paintings done by Claude Monet. He's a French impressionist with these 2 pictures, Impression Sunrise and Water Lilies, as you can see here. He's very popular, but he's an example of a French impressionism. Then you have this next one, which is Edgar Degas. He's also an impressionist with his woman on chrysanthemums and the dance class you see here. So the next one is Henri Matisse. He is a French Fauvist painter with woman with a hat and the dance, or la danse. Then you have Paul Cézanne. He's a French post-impressionist with the bathers and the card players. So he's post-impressionist. Then you have Vincent van Gogh. Van Gogh was from Netherlands and France. He was a post-impressionist with Starry Night and Sunflowers. And your last person to be aware of is Pablo Picasso, who is a Spanish and French Cubist painter with various paintings and sculptures you see here. So these are the movements they want you to be aware of: Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Expressionism, Fauvism, and Cubism. And those are the artists, the only ones they listed that you need to be aware of. I understand I didn't give an example of every single type of movement, but those are the only people they want you to be aware of in terms of examples. So that's it. That will end Unit 11, and I will post the test for Unit 11, and I will start Unit 12 tomorrow with Unit 12 notes in PowerPoint. But just be aware that, like I said, I cannot grade you on anything, so just do the best you can in terms of trying to actually do the test. I'll post the answers to the test questions later this week, so it gives you a few days to take the test and kind of see how you did. But y'all have a good day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Keep working hard. Don't let these build up to where you're having to do multiple a day, because you're going to get behind and it's not going to work out well. So try to stay on top of this as much as you can. See you tomorrow.